One. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our 10th episode of Z.I.P Talks. Today we are with team Ro2D2 from Romania. Hi, my name is Mohil, and we will be talking about the engineering notebook today.
So, before we start, do you guys want to give a bit of information about your team and how your season has been going this year?
Yeah, so I'll start. Hello, I'm Stefan from Ro2D2. Our team has been founded in 2018. We are from Ploiești, Romania. This season has been, let's say, our best season yet. We have qualified from Worlds with Inspire One on the Bucharest National Championship. We have also been the fourth seed after the qualifying matches. So we were able to build a really sturdy robot that was consistent throughout. We only had some problems with the autonomous period, but otherwise we performed really well. And I'll let my colleague Dharma talk more about our outreach and PR.
Hi, hello. My name is Darmar. And this year we wanted to show the fact that we have more social media awareness. So we used a strategic marketing plan. It is called 3P STP 4P. I don't know if you've heard of it. 3P comes from product place promotion, STP from segmentation, targeting, and positioning, and 4P for wait. I think I kind of mixed them, but I'm sorry. Well, we gave details about the fact that we associate the robotics team to a startup. So we used the fact that we have competitors on the market. So we used those informations to improve our outreach, and we use psychology marketing, and we wanted to make it a little bit more professional this year.
Yeah, so we all know the robot's a big part of the FTC, but in addition to that, designing and creating the engineering portfolio is equally as important. So at the start of each season, how do you guys approach going about making your portfolio?
So I'll talk from a technical standpoint. So we really focused on the engineering process. So I'll share my screen right now, if it's possible, so I can show you some excerpts from our engineering notebook, so you can see what I'm talking about. So I have it at page 10, 2 seconds. Okay, so we have an engineering process. First of all, we identify the design objectives for each of our subsystems. Then we do research, brainstorming, mathematical calculations, CAD, mechanical simulations, and then we finish with optimizations, prototyping, and testing. What's really important about our engineering process is the fact that we really try to make sure that we get the best ideas first of all when designing our robot, and this also helps us organize the way that we build each subsystem. So it's much easier for us to have this clear way of putting everything that we thought about into the book. So the start of the season, we might think of 3 different systems, and then when we choose the one that we want to work on, we clearly know why we want to work on it because we identify the design objectives, and then we make sure that we do the thorough research and the brainstorming. Moreover, this year we really put our accent on portraying the mathematical calculations and the CAD and the mechanical simulations. We wanted to show that we really think about each system and how we want to build it, and that we make sure that it's foolproof, because we think that you need a consistent robot to perform really well. It doesn't matter if you have a robot that sometimes can do a 1v2 and the other time it stops because the stringing isn't done correctly or because the systems cannot perform really well under stress. So we really focus on consistency So when you're trying to portray that to the judges, you need to show that you have a clear engineering process. I'll also show an example of our mathematical calculations. Um, we wanted to calculate I'm sorry, this is in Romanian because we didn't have much time to translate it all, but we wanted to calculate the maximum speed of the chassis. So when we wanted to choose between 312 RPM and 435 RPM motors, we uh, used the Gobilda graph and the relationship between torque and max RPM, and then we thoroughly calculated how much time it takes to do a full field. And in our conclusion, we managed to show that it would take approximately 3 seconds with 312s, and then with 435s, 1.5 seconds. So that so uh, when you are a judge and you look at this, you know that this team took every possible step in to make sure that they had the optimal solution to the problems that they were looking for. Um, when it comes to our mechanical simulations, we use SolidWorks, and it was really easy for us to use their tools in order, for example, to simulate an impact on our side plates, because a really common technique is reducing the material. So you'd make an optimization would be to remove the surplus of materials to make your robot lighter. But then a problem uh, that comes with this is the fact that it also make it more fragile. So you need to know where you're making the cuts. So for that, we first simulated a force on the place that didn't have weight reduction, and then on the place that had weight reduction, and we showed that with our weight reduction there was really no difference, and we were able to also reduce the weight. Moreover, we try throughout the season to document each prototype that we make, and to make sure that we don't miss any idea that we had. For example, the idea for our pole guide came from the fact that for our first prototype of the robot, we wanted to make a beacon that would self-align, and we got that idea. So we got the pole guide idea from that beacon, and we made sure that we had it in the book. To show you an example of how we document each prototype, we have for the intake here. At first, for the double linear slide that we had, we wanted to make it on a turret. So we had the outtake on a turret, and then for the intake, we wanted to make it with string, but it was really hard to guide the string when you had a turret in place. After some time, when we decided that we would remove the turret for the outtake, we decided on a mechanical extension with only one motor. So you would have this. So you have this. I'm sorry, I forgot the word. But you'd have the whole intake system action by only one motor with a belt. But then we also realized that this was inefficient. We weren't able to hold intermediate positions, and then we tried to optimize that. As I said, the final steps, we try optimizations for the current subsystem. We tried with a rev encoder. That didn't work. We then decided that it was better to just use it as an on-off. So we would either have it fully extended or not at all. And then for the nationals and our fourth prototype, we had everything on string, and now we're working on another prototype for Worlds. So from the start of our season, we have the engineering process. We follow it thoroughly. This shows how we're building each of our subsystems, and then we apply that as much as we can to each prototype to show that we had the best solutions for each part of our robot.
Yeah, it looks like you guys put a lot of detail into your engineering notebook. So how did you manage to condense all of that into just the 15 pages for the engineering portfolio?
Um, yeah, this was a really big problem for us, yeah, at the nationals, and really got some feedback on the fact that we weren't able to include a lot of calculations in our, because we had it all in the engineering notebook, and we thought, okay, that would be enough, but it actually wasn't, because our process was that we would give them a little bit, we would show them the whole of our robots, like each prototype, and then we kind of made a mistake of leaving the calculations in the notebook. And we're trying to fix that for worlds, and to include, let's say, to enlarge and the technical part of our portfolio, to include more calculations. But mostly we tried to remove some of the prototypes that were really old. So like for the intake, when we had the turret, I don't think we included that in our engineering portfolio, because we really focused on the last prototypes that made a huge impact on our performance. But yeah, it's really hard when you have a lot of things that you've done before to include them in the engineering portfolio. But I would just like, my advice would be to focus on showing the mathematical side in the calculations more than each prototype that you've been working on.
Yeah, definitely. I know, like when we were doing our like portfolio, it was like really hard because we would always like we had like one page left that we didn't know we had, and it was like we try to condense everything onto all these pages, and you try to like show like everything you've done this season, especially like on the robot. You have like four iterations of something, and you want to be able to show like the process for all of it, and especially for our outreach, at least we had to make sure we added all our outreach like on these certain pages, and like it was really hard to be able to like show pictures but also show like what we did, and like be able to like design that whole template and everything was definitely like a hassle, especially like you don't want to leave everything to like the last night and have to like fill it all in. So like do you guys like did you guys have like issue, like how do you guys like did you add in like all your outreach events in one page, like
Uh, we didn't add all the outreach events. We just added the most special ones. For example, this year we managed to do for a botanical garden a smart irrigation system. So the plants there can get their watering automatically. And that had a huge impact on our local community. So we wanted to give more details about this one. So we had only like 5 events for Connect and 5 for Motivate, because we, for the non-technical part, we divided in Connect and Motivate, and part only for outreach, like how many people we impacted with our events. But I have a question for you. How do you measure impact, like in hours? No, not impact, I'm sorry, outreach, in hours or in people impacted, or how?
so like how we got our numbers by like we like followed like what like first like had like, so whether it was like reached, we like made sure we like talked about like, oh, this is how many people we like actually like talked to and how many people we actually like connected with, not like how many people like attended the event per se, but like we just followed like what their definitions were, and like how many people we were actually able to meet and like spread the word at first. And like for hours we look at like, oh, if we like how long we attended the event for, that's how we like got like our numbers from. So it's not like we didn't like exaggerate or everything. We like made sure we like stuck by like every person and counted for all that.
And one
Okay,
thing that we
thank
did
you.
for the outreach is, instead of like putting the number of hours and people for like each individual event, because that would like take a lot of space, we like divided our outreach into like 4 different categories. Like at the end of like each category had like its own page. At the end of that page, you'd say, for this category, we talked to these many people and these many hours.
Okay, thank you. Because I had this problem. I didn't know how to um, divide it in which categories. But yeah, thank you. And I want to make a correction about the earlier strategic marketing plan that I talked about. It's 3C from customer, company, and competition, because I forgot to mention that.
Yeah, and I would say, like, adding on to what Sai said, especially like condensing all your outreach, especially your numbers, is a very hard thing to do, because you want to be able to like show judges the content as well as, the the pictures that you're at the event and how you're able to maintain an impact. So when it comes to fitting in all your outreach events, also along with your business and sustainability plan, how are you guys able to achieve that in the 15 pages that you have?
Okay, so for the sustainability plan, we just made a summary of what is in the book and specify the fact that we had volunteers this year that will take over the members that are in the 12th grade right now. I mean, we didn't give so many details about that because in our speech at the interview, we give the most important information, you know. I mean, our portfolio is just a summary. I don't know. We for sustainability plan we didn't elaborate that much. We didn't consider it so necessary. But what did you do about it?
Yeah, so I think for our sustainability plan, we were able to maintain it into one page, talking especially not just how we maintain our team sustainability, but as well as maintaining our teams financially. So we are able to use a lot of graphs as well as diagrams in order to show how we are able to connect from point A to point B. So with this, like judges can effectively see how we're able to reach all these, and and they're able to see our content in a very effective manner. And
Oh, okay,
yeah,
okay. Because we divided that into a sustainability plan for the future of our team, but not from a financial point of view. From a financial point of view, we had separated graphs, you know, for the whole budget, for the technical budget and non-technical budget.
Yeah, that's like what we did too. Like what Moho was saying is like we had like one page that was like team sustainability, and then I divided like there was another page that was like financial sustainability. So like for team sustainability, we just like talked about like we have a thing on our team called like Z.I.P training, where it's just like how we like train younger members into like to keep the team up for like the next like seasons to come. And like on the financial sustainability, it was like, oh, we have like this much money, this much budgeting, what we used it for, like graphs explaining like how we've been able to like sustain the team over the years and like things like that.
And when it comes to your financial sustainability plan, so I'm understanding from your point of view, it's how you're going to sustain your team financially in the upcoming years. What were your strategies as a team to make sure that your team will be financially stable? Like, do you have recurring sponsors, or do you have new methods to approach new sponsors? Because my first team is, how old is your team? Like, for how many years have you been competing?
4 years. This is our 4th year.
Okay, so like after 4 years, it's clear that you've become a known team in your community, and like probably most of the sponsors that you would have wanted to talk to, you have already talked about. Like, how do you approach keeping them close and let's say finding new ones, perhaps?
Yeah, like that's like a very important like process because you don't want to like lose sponsors as you're like trying to like keep sustaining your team. So like I'm the business lead on our team. One thing that like I make sure we do is like after every meet, giving them like an update and like how well we're doing and like how like what like their money has been able to like help us like succeed and like our success as a team. And like we have like monthly like calls with some of our sponsors as like they try to give us feedback on like some ideas we have, whether that's like how our judging's going, how our notebook's going, or like our new plans for the robot. And it's like sending them like keeping them updated, I feel like is like super important because they want it like you want to be able to like keep that relationship like close. And I think another big thing like getting new sponsors, like going out to outreach events and like connecting with like more professionals, like things like that have like helped us gain like more sponsors over the years. And it's like always like connecting with like local businesses in the community, applying to grants. Like that's a big way to like make sure you have like a decent like cash flow over the years.
Okay. And when it comes to the construction of your robot, so it's I was wondering, do you have your own CNCs, and how do you approach the building process when it comes to making custom parts?
Yeah, so we have like a large percent of robots is custom designed. So for what we have with our own team, a few of our team members have their own 3D printers. So a lot of our robot is 3D printed. But we also have some laser cut metal like for our drivetrain and some parts of our arm. So we one of our sponsors, Send Cut Sand, we work with them, so they give us some discount on what they do is that we send them our CAD and they can laser cut it out of metal, so like they we work with them to like get a discount on their services. So like that's how we usually get a lot of our custom metal parts.
And do you have a section in your notebook where you exemplify your process of making parts, or like using your laser cut, or like, for example, having custom 3D printer slicers or things like that? Like, do you have a part in your notebook about that? Because we didn't really have time to explain our part making process, and we were wondering if that had an impact in your team's ability to like wow judges, or like if judges asked about that specifically.
Yeah, so we didn't really focus on like the actual making of the custom design parts. What we focused more about is like why, like the thought that went into the design and why we decided to use custom design parts. So like one part of our robot that's very has a lot of 3D print parts is our arm. So initially, our arm was like completely made of like Gobola channels and like different Gobola parts, right? But then like throughout the competitions, we slowly made more and more of it 3D printed. So like in our state competition, like pretty much everything was 3D printed. So instead of like focusing on like how we like how we 3D printed it and like the slicer settings or like how we cattered it, we kind of focus on like why we cattered it and like what the idea of the design was.
Okay, yeah. And for the programming part, because I mainly work on the programming part of our notebook, and it was kind of hard for me to, let's say, I saw that programming isn't the most asked part of FTC. Like, no, we didn't really have a lot of questions about programming, and I was wondering how much attention do you, um how much time do you spend on working on the programming part of your notebook, and how do you explain the concepts behind it? Because, as I said, nobody really asks about it.
Yeah, programming is definitely I think the thing that's like hardest to approach. Like if you're looking at the portfolio, so I think like the way that we did it was we didn't like show any actual code. We kind of talked about like the ideas of like the main like algorithms. So for example, our like odometry system, we kind of talked about like the idea behind odometry or like different teleop optimizations we have. Instead of like focusing on like how the actual code works or like what algorithms we used to do it, like talk about like what it does, what it like how it saves time for the drivers. So I think for programming, it's definitely something you have to talk about more of the why, and instead of the how, because the how is very like unapproachable.
Yeah, because like we like, and I can show you a little bit of like how we approached, and this is for LFTC teams. I would like to have this demystified more. Like, we really tried to, because we all know that a lot of teams use Roadrunner, and I really tried for the nationals to explain how Roadrunner works, especially for the odometry part, like from a mathematical point of view. And let me see if I can find 2 seconds. I think it's about here. So like I really tried to show how odometry works and like the kinematics behind it, even though it was kind of hard. Like I had a formula. I'm
Yeah.
not sure. Like Ryan Broad had a paper on the
Mhm.
kinematics behind it, and it was like a one line formula, and the proof for it is 2 pages. So how do you even integrate that in a book? Because you want to explain how your systems work, but it's kind of hard when like the proofs are so mathematically dense and probably nobody will read them.
Yeah, we pretty much like in terms of the formulas behind it, we included like for yeah, I think it was like this same odometry formula. We included that in our portfolio, and we had our portfolio on our table. So when like we had some judges like come by and look at our portfolio, and they would like ask like what that formula was. And so instead of like writing it all on paper, like I was able to like talk to them and kind of like explain them through the proof, like
Yeah.
kind of explaining them the math behind it instead of just like because including all the math in like just 15 pages is like you're not gonna have any room for anything else at that point.
Yeah.
So for like in terms of formulas, yeah, we just put the formulas and then like we would physically explain them.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah. And I want to also talk a little bit about your game strategy for this year, and if you have a part in your notebook about that, because we really lacked that in our notebook. Even though we have like a pretty well-defined game strategy and like scouting strategy, we didn't include that. We were wondering if you had that included.
So yeah, actually, one of our pages that we dedicated was towards game strategy. So it was not just talking about what we did in Telia, but more about our autonomous. So something that we saw this year, especially as we got closer to our state championship, and now heading over to Worlds, so many teams have a 1+5 on the high goal. So we started talking about more about how we use different paths to obtain the most points that we can score, and this just like allows the judges to see, like, if they observe us in a match, why we were doing this and like how successful it was. And additionally, like tally up wise, we talk about what we do in our end game, what we do normally, and this allows us to like tell the judges why we're taking a certain course of action.
Yeah, I can share my screen
Yeah.
and show you how we did it. So this is what we. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this is what we did for our game strategy page. So we talked a bit about like our different auto paths and then like our tally up strategy, and then talked about also what we want to do in end game. And like, so I think this was kind of a bit important because one thing that we really saw at States is that two teams with like the same, pretty much same type of robot, but with like one strategy is pretty much gets more points than the other. That's going to happen a lot. So it's very important to spend some time and work on a good strategy.
Yeah. And for the teleop, what was your strategy during the competitions? If you like.
Yeah. So for for like all of our league meets, like we designed a robot and focused completely on just cycling on that high goal close to the substation. But then at States we saw that like that's not the most efficient use of cones. So like instead of just like working on getting like every single cone on that one high junction, if you do that, you'll get like that 100 points of just cones, but you're also gonna lose out on every other ownership pretty much. So we what we just like started to do in States is we used our like intake linear slide. So like with that we can like pretty much grab a cone while like like really like 2 or 3 tiles away from the substation.
Yeah.
So we use that to start like doing prioritizing more ownerships and like cycling, because cycling at that you're just like wasting cones pretty much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and but like sort of like what Sarnath was saying is like a typical match for us would we'd spend like 5 or 6 cones just cycling, and then we would start using our horizontal linear slide and start going for ownerships instead of going for a circuit, because we saw that if you just target ownership like after you finish your cycling, you have a better chance of going and getting that circuit instead of like targeting only specific junctions to get a circuit. So we feel like just targeting ownership as well with the circuiting allows us to score as many points as we can.
Yeah, we thought about, so cycling for us at the start of the season. We thought that, as you said, you would lose to ownership, so that was a big minus for us. Like we didn't really focus on cycling from the get go, and when it came to circuits, I really remember from earlier this season, like we had competitions where we would get a circuit like each match, because we thought that one robot should focus on cycling and the other on ownership. As the game went on and as the season went on, we realized that both should focus on ownership. And when we started looking at stalling for like 30 seconds, something we didn't do in one of our semi-final matches, unfortunately, because we then focused on like ownership a lot and like getting as many junctions as we could. Sorry, my brother wants to come in the room. And then when it came to the circuit, we realized that it might be better just to block it each time. like you wouldn't fight for the circuit. You would just block each attempt because you would lose. I think like if you get a circuit, that would add like 12 points in comparison to like getting them all on high and ownerships and stuff. But then if you block a circuit, you just make the other team lose their cones in the terminal. So then you'd have like a better chance of winning. But it's kind of hard, like when you don't have, we didn't have much time because we are really rebuilding our robot between competitions. So like I think we finished our robot in January, and then it was really hard for us to explain our game strategy in the portfolio, especially, but even in the notebook. So yeah, that's why I was wondering how much emphasis you put on that. And if you had it in your portfolio, did you have like a bigger version in the notebook, or you just left what was in the portfolio the same in the notebook?
So like this year, our team has not made a actual long engineering notebook. We were spending more time spending more time on the engineering portfolio in order to fit the necessary information that we needed. So like going for game strategy, something that we saw is not just content, but highlighting certain key words will like stand out to the judges, like cycling or a certain number. That will like tell the judges like, oh wait, they have this number here or they have this keyword here, so they should like read the sentence. So I would say especially with game strategy and just like hardware, just not just having the content, but having the images and highlighting certain words will really add on to the value of just having just like a very big paragraph on something.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So did your team focus more on like the notebook in the portfolio than the portfolio? Because you're talking about how like you made your portfolio notebook like in the start of the season.
Yeah, I'll let Dalmor talk about this more.
So we kind of managed to have a list where we recorded all our activity over the past few months. And it was easier for us to get the information from the notebook and put it into the portfolio because, to make a summary of something that's way longer, it was easier than to just write the paragraphs that were really short and had all the information really dense. So that was our strategy for the portfolio. And I think it worked really well. And I don't know, it's different when you have all the information and all the details because you somehow can have a clear view of what you want to say. Last year we made this mistake. We didn't actually wrote all our improvements, and it was really hard for us to do the portfolio from zero.
Yeah, like we had like this year in comparison to our last year. If last year we were really struggling to come up with the things that we've done, this year we were really struggling to like fit them all in because we realized like how much we actually worked, and we also had a longer build season than we had last year. Like this year we started from October, last year we started from like January, February. So we kind of had to do an engineering notebook because we thought that we couldn't. For example, we built two different robots, so one of them for sure wasn't going in the portfolio, but we couldn't ignore like half of our season. So we really had to do an engineering notebook. I don't even think we have it. It's like our double reverse 4-bar system. I don't think it's even mentioned in the portfolio because it's clearly not our competition robot, and we actually had problems at the regional phase where we came with both robots at the interview, and like the judges were kind of confused and they asked us which one was the competition robot, so we didn't make that same mistake at the nationals. So it was clear that we needed an engineering notebook to showcase all of our work, even if some parts of the engineering notebook were solely there and not in the engineering portfolio.
So yeah, I mean definitely it's very hard to especially just like fit in all the information that you think is like really necessary and fit into those 15 pages. So I know something that our team tries to do at the beginning of each season is with the 15 pages that we have, we designate it to a certain area, like business, our hardware, our software, our outreach. Does your team follow a certain strategy when it comes to condensing the information into a portfolio?
We use this strategy. Let's say we had a page only for summary, a page where we had the structure of our team, and then we talked underneath about the sustainability plan. Then we started talking about this new marketing plan. Then we I think we talked about outreach numbers and budget, and we divided the page into columns, so it would be easier for the judges to have an overview. And then we had a page for connect and a page for motivate, so we can reach both of them to have a bigger chance for inspire. And then we had the design, innovate, think for the technical part.
Yeah, for the technical part, really, we just focus on showcasing the progress of the robot, and we only had one designated page for programming. So, like after all that Darmar said, it comes the design of the robot, and then just one page for programming. And probably for Worlds, we'll look more into expanding our technical side and like the part of the robot to include more calculations, more simulations to show in the portfolio our engineering process, or like to showcase it better than we did at the national phase. So yeah, we follow. We don't really have a fixed strategy because we're really trying to focus on the best parts of our team and to show where we really shined this season, or where we have the most chances to win a prize. Even though, of course, we're going to show that we're an all-around team and that we can do the outreach as well as we can build competitive robots. So yeah, like our strategy changes, of course, as we get feedback throughout the season. So after the nationals now Inspire 1, we also got some feedback for the Worlds and how we can improve it, and that's why we're expanding our technical side.
And one thing about the template is the fact that we had as a model, old newspapers, because in the old newspapers you can see the most important titles and the most important things. And for the judges, would be easier to read the portfolio if it's written on columns or in in not an arranged way. Let's say.
Yeah, so does your region have like a place for where you submitted your engineering notebook? Because I know like a few teams that brought their engineering notebook to our competitions, there was no place for them to show it to the judges. So like how'd you guys like show your notebook to the judges?
Okay, so the thing with the notebooks is you only have them at your stand. So if judges come in, use them at your stand. Like they're really powerful. For us, we thought that it was a statement. First, that look, okay, you have the portfolio. You saw that probably we're a good team and we are nominated for some prizes. But then with our notebook, we have all of the documentation to sustain what we're saying. So we used it as a tool to show them that, okay, this is the work that we've done. And we really, it's easier to organize your thoughts when you know that you're going to open that notebook at that page and show him exactly what you want to show him. So, or what you want to show the judge. So that was where we showcased our notebook, mostly at the stand, and we thought that it was better to have that there. And as we know, it's just recommended that you have an engineering notebook, but it showed them that, okay, like they worked a lot and they are able to showcase all of their work with this notebook that they've written over the year.
Yeah, and every single time they came by and they were like, and in your portfolio you just wrote this and this and this, and they wanted to see if they can put us, if they can ask us tricky questions, And with that engineering notebook, we were ready to show them whatever they wanted to see because we had the proof. So that was the thing we wanted to show, that we have proof for every single activity we say we did.
Yeah, so um like you'd have the, let's say, not the summary, but like the short version in the portfolio, and then if they really wanted to get into the gist of it, like the hard details, you just open the notebook and then it show them everything. So that's why um we really focused on getting them both for the regionals and the nationals as well.
I mean, yeah, like
Yeah, one thing that we had at our pits was that for each of like the business outreach and like robot programming, we had like a little like one page like descriptions of like the entire. So it's like if we had like our notebook, like we had like quick like one page summaries of it. So that's one thing that we use in our pits.
Okay, I think I didn't catch the middle part because it was a slide.
I so what I was trying to say is like we have our portfolio, but since we didn't make like a big like engineering notebook, we didn't. It's hard to go like into like really big detail, I guess, in the portfolio on things you might want to expand more about. So like for programming, outreach, business, and the robot, we created like one page summaries for each of them that we like put on like in our pit. That way, like when a judge comes and they want to learn more about like a certain area, like on that one page summary, it's like more in detail and stuff that we may have like left out in the portfolio, so they can like learn more about it and go more deeper like into that section. So that's how like we like kind of like went about making sure like they got all the information and all that.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And would you distribute them to other teams as well, or only when the judges came?
If like teams were to come also, like when they came, like they none of them like asked to like take it back with them. So it would just like stay on the table. But it's definitely, it was like open for like anybody to like look at and like learn more about.
And uh, if you didn't have an engineering notebook, did other teams have, or are you planning to have one at Worlds? Like, what is the dynamic in America for engineering notebooks? Because in Romania, I think like um, some of the teams that there were a lot of teams that had their engineering notebooks. So that's why I'm asking. Like, do teams in America also put a lot of emphasis on it, or they really focus a lot on their portfolios to make them like peak perfection?
Yeah, in our state, I don't think any teams brought. I think only maybe one or two teams brought their notebook, or like had a notebook that they had with them. So I think most of the teams only focus on their portfolio and trying to make their portfolio as like readable and as informative as possible.
And did you have any inspiration for your portfolio? Like, do you have other teams that you've gotten some ideas from, or what other teams do you think have great portfolios?
Yeah, definitely. Like sorry, one thing about like our notebook is like we try to make it like as informative as possible, so like making sure we have like a bunch of information on like every page. And we saw like other teams, they had like less information, more like diagrams, and it was like kind of like a mix and match between like every team's like different. So I think something we're trying to like we might like implement and try to like improve is maybe like cut down a little bit on the wording, but like try to make it more like readable. But we also liked how like we added a lot more content, so it's like about like changing like the template a little bit, trying to go more in like the process of like every single page and all of that.
Yeah.
yeah, and like sort of adding on to, or like this is my question for you guys. I know that like as I was saying like changing the template is something that is very helpful, especially to include more content. So as Worlds approaches, what changes are you guys gonna make to your portfolio and to your engineering notebook to include all the new content that you're gonna include in your technical hardware and software and like your outreach? How are you guys gonna like take in that content and like maintain like the aesthetic side of your portfolio?
Good question, actually. I think we'll use only 4 or 5 pages for the non-technical part and 10 for the technical part so the guys can, put all their calculus because it's really important for the judges to see that. And we'll condense all the outreach numbers because we gave a lot of details about how we made outreach. So we'll put more numbers and less words, I guess, for that part. And we actually used for the events, let's not say big pictures, but I think we can, make them smaller and place them differently. And we have always used this SWOT analysis. So, what do you think? It's, I mean, a must to have it, or
I think we did SWOT first. Like for some of the previous years, we did a SWOT analysis like for the robot. Where we talk about the SWOT analysis for each of the different designs. I don't think let me see. I don't think we implemented it for our state's portfolio. Instead of doing a full SWOT, we kind of just did like a pros and cons. So we had like two main designs, like pretty much two different robots that we talked about. So we kind of did like a pros and cons for each, like the intake of the first robot versus the intake of the second robot, the outtake versus outtake first robot, outtake second robot. So we didn't do like a full blown SWOT analysis, but we kind of did like something similar with that.
okay, because our SWOT analysis uses, I think, half of a page, so it's too much, and I think there we can, put some content. So okay, thank you.
Yeah,
I
no
think
need.
the distribution.
Yeah.
I think the distribution you guys had is completely opposite from ours. Like you're saying how you want to do like 10 pages robot, 5 pages like non-technical. I just counted. We had 6 pages robot and like 9 pages non-technical. That's completely opposite.
Yeah, we really had a lot of work done for the robot this year, so that's why I really want to highlight it. And the changes come so fast when it comes to how you want to improve a robot. I think for the nationals, we had the system done in literally the last day. So we had a problem with our trolley. It's like the wheels on which we have our intake. We realized after like a few tests, like we were testing our autonomies right before the nationals, and realized that if a cone slipped and got into our intake system, it would just block the whole intake system. And like our colleague had to 3D print some parts in the morning, and of course you can't put that in your notebook because you already have it printed. So we're really somehow trying to, like for worlds, we have a clear strategy of finishing our updates earlier. Like we really want to have a foolproof robot like 1 week, 1.5 weeks before, so we can just test it, do autonomies, and hopefully not have any more changes that we can't write into the notebook, and show that we are ready before. And when it comes to the template for the notebook, I don't like for the big engineering notebook. I don't think there will be any changes. We will just focus on getting all the information there as thorough as possible, so we have what to show to the judges.
Yeah, definitely. Those last minute robot changes are always present. Like we were at our hotel where we stayed for our stays, and then like that night, I was like 1 a.m. Like one of the buildings was in like son, we have to make this change right now. So we had to like go to the car, go grab the box of parts, and then get them up to the hotel room, and then make the change real quick. So I think definitely we had a talk with the build team. We gave them a strict deadline. We'll see how good they follow it.
Yeah, and of course, like there are some last minute changes that you have to do, but we had a cheeky strategy for the nationals because we implemented those little changes, and then we kind of highlighted them at the interview to make sure that those were getting in, even though they weren't in the notebook. Like I think one of our members told them about the thing with the intake, like that problem, and how because you can highlight to the judges the fact that you are able to adapt in such a short time, and I think that that is the point that you should make to them. Like it doesn't matter if we have a problem, because we can solve it really fast and we can find solutions. I think it's worse if you have a problem and you can't find the solution until the competition comes, because after all, you only have 6 matches, and it doesn't matter if you have the robot ready 1 hour before or 3 weeks. If you can get it in performing shape before the matches, that's all that matters.
Yeah, I think like kind of what you're saying. Yeah, if you know that there's a problem with your robot, it's definitely good. Even if you like can't find a way to solve it, it's definitely good to just address that, because it like the judges will understand that it'll be a lot better to the judges. The judges will understand that you know the limitations of your robot, and like knowing the limitations of your system is a lot better than like what's it called like just ignoring them and having the judges see it for the first time in the field.
Yeah, like at least you can prepare them for what's about to come if something goes wrong, and not tell them that, oh, it went wrong and we didn't realize. No, like we knew, but I don't know. I just hope it didn't happen or something like that.
I had one more question for you guys. So obviously, the purpose of Zip Talks is to give more information about certain topics to our community. So, what would be the biggest piece of advice you would give rookie team members about their engineering notebook or their engineering portfolio?
Oh, okay. I'll talk about the notebook and then let Dharma talk about the portfolio. Um, for the big notebook, of course, start early. For sure. Start documenting everything early, and don't let yourself don't ever think that something is not important when it comes to, because it will really come later on. And maybe, just maybe, this is another part of let's say cheeky advice. If sometimes you won't make the connections, but if you really have something that you've thought about in the like in the start of the season, and then something later came along and you thought of this new big idea, maybe you can connect those two to make it seem like you got this from that. And even though you realistically didn't get it, it makes a great point about your team, that you can look back and see that you didn't realize that that influenced you in any way. So if you have everything written out, and probably you should start like documenting it weekly, so you could get so like how you do reports for your sponsors. That would be a great way to just doing it for your notebook, because the notebook, after all, is just a way to show the judge that you really thought everything thoroughly. And then remember that you're showing to the judges don't have time to read through all of your notebook, so you're showing them only the parts that matters. So even if you have some typos, even if you have some things that you don't think are important, you're really just going to get at those important parts. So start early, document everything, really think about what you're going to show to the judges in relationship to your portfolio, and don't miss anything. Just write them all there. If you think some parts are really useless, then throw them out. But just make sure that that notebook encompasses all of your team's activity, and it helps you like build your notebook so it is let's say a guide to the judges that you can use, so you can show them all of your team's activity.
Okay, and for the portfolio, it's essential to have a template that is easy to read, not too colorful, because I've seen so many portfolios that were so I don't know, tiring. I mean, I was trying to read and to pay attention to all the information there, and I couldn't. So this is really, really important, because after all, this is a technical, I mean, mainly technical competition. So the judges want to see mainly the information, not specifically the, I don't know, graphics. And I think it's really important to emphasize the most important events, because you'll have enough time at the interviews and when they come by your pit to talk about whatever you want to. So the events that had the most outreach, of course, and that impacted the crowds. And for the technical part, I think a thing that we forgot and that it's really important is to explain better the number of the iterations, because, for example, we had this year 23 digital iterations. So we forgot to tell the judges that, and it was a really important thing because when they came by, they asked us, okay, so you had 23 in total, or only, I don't know, five physically implemented. No, we had only, I mean, 23 on both robots, and that was not so clearly explained. So nothing there can be, I don't know, understood if they don't see the information on the page. So it's not like, yeah, you should have, I mean, got that from what we wrote there. No, it doesn't work like this. I think that's it.
Yeah, and one thing that I would like to add to what Dharma said about the portfolio, about it being unreadable, when you judge, like you self-judge your portfolio, just imagine that you've read 79 other portfolios, and this is the last one that you stumble upon. Like, are you going to pick that up, or are you just going to like flip through 5 pages and say, okay, I'm too tired to read this. I'm not going to read it, because that's the worst case that you can be in, and if you're not prepared for that, then probably your portfolio isn't going to inspire.
Yeah, definitely. Your portfolio definitely has to like catch the eye and be like not draw the like it has to draw them and not push them away.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, definitely. I think like one thing like last year we had our like background was white, and then this year we decided we'd like make it more like colorful, our team colors. So we made the background orange. Printing that definitely took like a lot more ink, but I think that's like something that was definitely like a lot brighter about our notebook this year. It's definitely like one more pop, like one more color.
Yeah, because it's really important that it stands out as well. So they remember you, especially if they just flip for a couple of pages. Because if they can't do that, and if it just fades away with the others, then of course they will not think about you, and they will not associate your notebook, uh, with your portfolio, with your team, or with any other prizes that you might get nominated for otherwise.
Yeah, definitely having a consistent branding between like your pit, your robot, your portfolio, like all of that. Like one thing, everything, like half the robot is orange. Like the entire portfolio is the background is orange. Our entire pit is like covered in orange, like tablecloths and orange signs, etc.
We also have blue. Don't worry, our team colors are orange and blue, but we also have like blue tablecloth. We have blue. I think we have like blue like strings down, and the portfolio like has like blue letters and stuff. So, but the robot is like mostly orange. So
Yeah, we would have liked to make. We I talked to the technical team, and we really thought about making our robot purple, but then we just stick with silver and black because it was just so clean, and we didn't want to lose that. But we'll think about it. Maybe we'll make some of our like the 3D printed parts purple. But we really cashed in the black and silver. I don't think we have any space to go back now.
Yeah, we bulk ordered like orange like filament and stuff. So all of our 3D printed parts are just all orange.
Yeah, we should have
And
thought
so
about that actually, but yeah, we just
even our
really
linear
like that.
slides, like the string for our linear slides, that's also orange.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea. Where do you get your string from? Just like an off-topic
Uh,
question.
I think I think it's like Home Depot or something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it's like Home Depot, and then I think sometimes we have like team or like parents of team members who actually donate string and other parts. So like I'm pretty sure that we did have like one of our donations like were some of the string that we did use on our previous robots.
Oh, okay, that's great. Because it's really hard to find string for linear slides in Romania. Like the one that we have is ordered from Amazon, and it takes like 3 weeks to come. So yeah, that's why I was asking. Okay,
I think
thanks a
the
lot.
Gobilda string is also pretty sturdy. It's also black, so it'll probably fit into your robot.
Yeah, like we tried with GoBuilda, and then we had this one which is used for like kiting, and then we kind of stuck with it. and now we really have to do another order for that kiting string because it's really really great. Like at the nationals, we realized after one day that it was actually like scraping against the pulley, and like it lasted all day long. And we really really stress tested the robot. I don't think it had like 1 hour that it wasn't working while we were at the nationals. So yeah, we really stress tested that string.
It'd be really cool if you had a purple robot too. I know like one team member on our team is like obsessed with the color purple. I think he'd love to see a purple robot.
We'll think
Yeah,
about that.
one of the teams in our league, they're called the pink team, and like they're all their metal, they have a powder coated pink and stuff. So if you look at the robots, it's completely entirely pink.
I think that it's another team in Europe, and I think in the Netherlands, Speak to the Future, and I think they were on your podcast as well, yeah. And they had like their team branding is fully pink. I think they even have suits, and I thought that was really great.
All right, yeah, it was great talking with you guys. I think it was very informative, and yeah, like really excited to see you guys out at Houston.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation. And we really hope to see you out there, performing your best. And for all the rookie teams out there, just keep going, and may have great luck in this season and the upcoming.
Yep. Good luck to you guys too.
Thank
Good
you.
luck. See you